Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Strange Appalachia. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a really strange phenomenon about lizardmen from all over various different areas. We're sort of going to highlight three of them, one out of Kentucky, one out of South Carolina, and one that's here local to us. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Charlie so he can talk about the first one, which I believe is going to be the local one. Is that correct?
Yeah, back in the day when I was doing interviews and stuff, some guy came to me and he said, "Hey, there's a cop in Appalachia, Virginia that you need to talk to. He's got a pretty weird story." And so, you know, being a cop, I figure it's pretty reliable. So I met him. There was a Burger King. I met him at a Burger King. I'm not going to use any names, but I met him at a Burger King there in Appalachia. It's it's a really small town. It's the only restaurant, or at the time was the only restaurant in the town. It's attached to a gas station. And we didn't go in. We stayed out in the parking lot and just kind of hung around. And he said that he got a call one night that this lady was reporting someone in a lizard suit or a lizard man in her chicken coop. And, when you're a cop, you hear all kinds of stuff, I'm sure. I can only imagine the stories you hear, but he went out anyway. And he went to the lady's chicken coop, and he said he didn't really know what to expect when he got there. He was kind of expecting someone in a suit. And he said he opened the door to the coop up. He had his gun out, had his light up. And when he did, he said that the only thing he could describe it as was a lizard that was as tall as he was and standing on its hind legs. And he didn't really know how to approach it. He didn't know what to do, and he was kind of in shock. And he said, "Why don't you come on out of there, sir?" And he said when he said that, it looked at him and it flicked its tongue, and then it slithered through a hole in the wall. Those were his words. And so, you know, what do you make of that? I certainly don't know. He said that, he just kind of chalked it up to trespassing. But, I have no idea. That's pretty weird.
Yeah, I've got
What
nothing
do you think?
for it. Um,
Well, I mean, the only thing I can think of is that maybe somebody had a pet lizard, like something large. I mean, you know, iguanas can grow to be pretty good size. I'm not going to say they're going to be 6 foot tall, maybe long if you count their tail, but maybe somebody had some kind of pet lizard that had escaped and it was eating chicken eggs and it spooked her and him, and slithered through a hole in the wall. That's not something that a lizard does, I don't think.
no, I mean I could see somebody, looking at some lizards and describing their movement as slithering.
Yeah.
And depending on the size of the hole in the wall, I mean that could be an impressive feat in and of itself. I know that there are species of lizards, around the world that can raise up on their hind legs, if they're spooked or something like that, and they're trying to scare something off. Um, but to be 6 foot tall and do that, I mean, you're looking the largest lizards in the world. The Komodo dragons are 10 foot long.
Right.
And we definitely Appalachia is not anywhere in the Appalachian Mountains for that matter does not have the climate or food source to support Komodo dragons. So,
I don't know.
with or without chicken eggs.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was
Uh,
always a pretty good story, I thought. Like I
I'm,
said, I
I'm
always figured he
I'm
was.
just perusing here the list of the largest species of lizards in the world. Of course, the Komodo's at number one, and then you go down to like 8 foot for a thing in Australia, and then number three on the list is 4'11" at the most. So, I mean, that's a pretty big drop off there.
Yeah, like I said, I always figured he saw something that was like a lizard, like a large lizard, and it spooked him.
Yeah, an
He didn't.
escaped pet, probably.
Yeah, that's what I always figured. But I had nothing for it. And
Yeah. I mean,
imagine how
other
this
than
guy.
escape lizard, that's all I got.
Yeah, I can imagine how much this guy was ridiculed. And I mean, could it have been someone in a lizard suit? You know, coming from that area, who knows? All right, you want to do the next story?
Sure, you want me to hit Kentucky or South Carolina here?
Do Kentucky.
Do Kentucky. All right. Kentucky is a little more straightforward than the South Carolina one. Um, it's called the Kentucky Lizardman or the Milton Lizard. Milton Lizard makes more sense in my mind because basically the report of this thing is it is a monitor lizard, which is a well-known species of lizard, type of lizard. The unusual thing about it was that it was 15 foot long, reportedly. Now I'm sure there's some um, leeway in that, some embellishment where people have over the years embellished it a little more. But this report comes from the summer of 1975, and it was seen by a pair of brothers around their junkyard that summer. And the fact that it was found in the summer sort of sticks out to me a little bit because again, lizards are cold blooded, so they're going to get their warmth from their environment. So, being out in the winter or something like that's not something you would really expect with the lizard. Um, but this lizard, it freaked people out for a few weeks, and then it basically disappeared. So my guess is that the Appalachian Mountains it figured out it couldn't live there the hard way, and something ate it, or it wasn't able to get enough food, and it eventually died. But the sort of theory that everybody's working with is that basically there somewhere in the county or in the area somebody had these eggs in their car and they hatched because of the heat, and then it was in that junkyard and it lived there as long as it could, and then it either moved on or it died, one of the two. Um, but it's called the Lizard Man, which strikes me as odd because there nowhere is there any man-like reports from it. From the very beginning, the brothers described it as being just a lizard that was out of place. So I don't know where the Lizard Man part of that comes in at.
Well, I got one right here. It's in Kentucky. It's in Stevensport, Kentucky, and it's a town that sits on the Ohio River. And they had a report in 1966 of a lizard man. The guy says he looked outside of his home and reportedly saw a 6 foot tall lizard man with brownish green skin, webbed appendages, and a long ridge that ran from its forehead to the crown of his head. So it had a crown on its head.
Hmm.
Uh, I did hear a report one time in the same area.
What
Of
real
man,
quick,
yeah,
what what town did you say that was in?
that was in Stevensport, Kentucky.
Okay.
I did hear a report one time of a lizard man that kept moving through cow ponds of all places, and that's where they would lurk at. And it was supposedly amphibious. And lizards typically are not aquatic. I mean, there are aquatic lizards, but most of them are not animals that want to hang around water. And
Right.
so, a lizard man, a lot of these are reported along the Ohio River or along cow ponds of all places.
Well, I was just looking up, to sort of compare the two. From Milton, which is where the story that I had was from, to Stevensport is a 2 hour drive at best.
Yeah,
And they're in different time zones. There is the city of Louisville is sort of right in the middle of them, but it splits the two sides. But both of them are right on the Ohio River.
yeah. I did do some research trying to figure out if I could find like Ohio lizard man or Ohio River lizard man. And I came up with the Loveland frog, and that's a whole other story in and of itself. But basically, we may cover that one eventually. But basically, I started out with a police officer seeing what he described as a giant frog walking around on its hind legs.
Frogs and lizards do go together fairly well.
Yeah. So we may do a whole episode on that Loveland frog because it's pretty interesting too. So
Hmm. I've heard of it before, so.
yeah, but I don't have answers. I know our favorite show, Mountain Monsters. They did an episode where they went out to try to catch the Kentucky Lizardman, and they didn't have any success. Not surprisingly.
So to sort of pigtail off that, is that not when they also ended up in that show in Lee County?
It
Looking
is,
for
yeah. Lee
Lizard
County,
Man
Virginia.
there?
Yeah, and there are some Lizardman stories out of Lee County, Virginia, but it was few and far between when I was younger reading them, and I can't find any of them now.
Yeah. It's
I,
just
I know that I know that our grandmother used to tell us the story. I don't know if she ever said anything to you, but used to talk about Squareface. Did you
Mm-mm.
ever hear stories about Squareface? Yeah, she used to tell me that if I was mean, Squareface would come and get me. And I always imagined him as a lizard man because a, a lizard can have a square face.
Right.
So
Hmm.
she used to always tell me about Squareface.
Interesting.
Yep, I always thought it was pretty weird.
All
Uh,
right.
so
Anything
you want
else
to go
on
ahead and do?
Kentucky Lizard Man?
Yeah, that's about all I got on Kentucky Lizard Man. If you want to go ahead and do South Carolina.
All right. So South Carolina Lizard Man is definitely more of a substantial story, I would say. There's a lot more on this. Um, and oddly enough, we were just talking about Lee County. This is in Lee County, but in South Carolina, not Virginia, um, which is sort of in north central ish uh, South Carolina, or yeah, South Carolina. I think I said North Carolina a second ago, but
Yeah.
South Carolina. And basically, it started in the late 80s, specifically around July 14th of 1988. The sheriff's office was called to investigate some damage that had happened to a car overnight. Uh, and so the sheriff's department goes out, and sure enough, the car is damaged. It's got some scratches. There's some hair left behind, and some muddy footprints. Which it's interesting that there's hair left behind because you would think a lizard man doesn't have any hair because lizards aren't known to have hair, but
Right.
that sort of strikes me as unique there. Um, but then, not too long after that, a 17-year-old called in and reported another car that had been damaged by what they described as a green, wet-like, 7-foot tall monster that had 3 fingers, red eyes, and skin like a lizard, sort of snake-like scales. Um, and
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he was changing his tire when it supposedly attacked his car.
Yep, yep. So he was on his way home. He was trying to fix a flat tire. The creature appeared on the car, which is unique to me. That the first time you notice a 7-foot tall lizard man is when it's literally standing on top of the car that you're working on. That's got to be terrifying.
Yeah.
But he apparently was driving, and it appeared on top of the car, and he applied the brake and threw it off. Like you would expect, something standing on top of a vehicle to.
Yeah.
Um, After that, the coverage of it really picked up. It went national. News stations started picking it up, and the town definitely profited off of it. Then, not too long after that, on August 5th, I assume of the same year, although I did not make note of that, there was a airman, member of the Air Force, that was at a local Air Force base, Shaw Air Force Base, reported that he had shot it and wounded it. But he then later faced trial for hoaxing the whole thing, or his report of it, not the whole thing. And then after that, the sightings of it went away, and the police basically said, "Yeah, it was a bear,"
Well,
which is probably my second favorite. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a bear.
yeah, it's not a cart though. Somebody had a cart out there pushing it around.
Right, that's the best. Um,
Um,
but anyway, so just some more things. In 2008, there was more car damage in the same area, and there were blood stains that they found around cars then, and they sent them away, and it came back as dog DNA,
yep.
which is definitely not a lizard. Um, and then just over time, more people have just reported different stuff and reported it nationally on news. And in 2017, this is, I think, one of my favorite things ever. The South Carolina Emergency Management Division used it as a joke during the solar eclipse. So that's pretty good. If you get a chance, go check out those tweets. They're pretty impressively done.
I know that. I know that the dog thing. That lady, I saw her be interviewed, and she is wholehearted that it was not a dog that attacked her car. Um, but if you look at the car, there's pictures online of it. You can see it. That car, man, just every trim, every piece of edge on that car is chewed up. It's amazing. You would not think a dog could do that, but
Yeah, I've not seen the pictures of it,
and
but
it's demolished. I'm pretty sure that the bumper's been pulled partially off,
huh.
and it's like the dog has just chewed the whole thing. So I mean, it's impressive damage. I don't know. Like I said, when you first see it, you think there's no way a dog could do this, but then the DNA comes back and it's a dog. I know that there was a resurgence in sightings around 1995 as well, and like any good monster, that area has a Lizardman festival.
Of course they do.
Yeah, I mean you got to have a festival. It's the South.
Yeah, sure.
It's either going to be some kind of fruit, or some kind of weird monster.
So I'm looking at pictures of this thing, and that would have to be a large dog that did that.
Yeah, it's not can't be small. That's for sure.
That thing
I
is
mean,
tore up pretty good.
some of the pictures you see of it, you're like, how did the dog get on the roof? That's something you normally see out of a 7 foot tall lizard man, not a dog. So, um, you got some news of the weird to share this week, JD?
I uh, do got some strange news to share with you, and this was shared with me by the basketball coach at Castlewood High School where I work, Coach Patrick Wade. So shout out to him for sharing this with me. And it's a Twitter article that is your standard saw Bigfoot and got some Bigfoot pictures. Twitter article, I guess, is the best way you can describe it. It's reported as a Bigfoot in Alabama, but if you open it up, it's actually in Ohio, which is your first clue that this is not necessarily the most true, you know, post you're ever going to see. It claims that it was verified by the sheriff's office, but it was not shared by the sheriff's office. But it's three really good pictures of a Bigfoot-like entity walking along a lake. And in typical Bigfoot fashion, it could be any lake in America. But I don't think it's going to be any lake nearby at this point in time of the year, anywhere in Ohio, Alabama, or otherwise, because every tree in it is green. So I'm going to just chalk this one up as another hoax, and I actually think I've seen these same pictures before. I'm not sure of that, but they look very familiar to me. So these Bigfoot pictures and mountain lion pictures are another one that pop up a lot. They just share the same like four pictures over and over again and
Yeah.
claim that they're new every year. But that's what I'm chalking this one up to. But
Well, it strikes me that the Bigfoot is not blurry.
Yes, because Bigfoot is naturally blurry. But anyway, Coach Wade shared that with me and gives us something to talk about. And spring seems to be the time of year that those get shared around a lot. So be on the lookout for the same three. This is a mountain lion crossing a road pictures that you're going to see this year, and the same three. This is Bigfoot on the other side of some lake somewhere, and it's definitely not my brother in a Bigfoot costume.
Yeah. And, it's a shame that these things get sent around like that because there's a lot of people out there that are putting a lot of time and effort into trying to find, Bigfoot. And I mean, we jest about him being naturally blurry, but, like I keep saying, that every time I think that it's not real, something happens and makes me question that. And then every time I think that it is real, something happens and makes me question that. So, there's
Right.
a lot of people out there putting a lot of time and effort into it just to have, some goober come along and post the same picture from 4 years ago.
Some of them are older than 4 years.
That's true. I
All
mean,
right. Anything else? I know you've got one shout out you've got to give before we sign off.
yeah, we ran into him the other day. It's Fred Dorton. We ran into him the other day. I was pumping gas, and he said, "Hey, Strange Appalachia." And I said, "Hey, what's going on, man?" And I told him I'd give him a shout out on here. So that's pretty awesome that getting recognized out in public first time. So it's pretty nice.
I think we also owe him an apology because I think we may have said something dirty about uh, people who collect marbles, talking about Dad that one night, and he collects marbles. So sorry about that, Fred.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole Strange Appalachia on marble collectors.
We probably could. And that's without leaving Dad's bedroom.
That's correct. What we're trying to say is the man's never found the marbles he lost.
No, no, he's still looking. He went to an auction this weekend looking for those lost marbles,
They weren't there.
which is impressive for an 88-year-old man who can barely move in his own oxygen to have to go look for marbles. But there he went.
You're like a tank, man.
He is.
Rolled up tree.
Slow moving tank, but a tank nonetheless.
Oh. All right, JD, go ahead and close this out.
All right. We hope you enjoyed the episode tonight. As always, I encourage you to like and subscribe here. That helps us out, and we're getting at the point that and we've said this several times now. We're wanting to get out and do some stuff. In the field, do some actual research. The problem is there's not a whole lot of places that we can necessarily go and do anything other than look for Bigfoot. And as much as we like looking for Bigfoot, it's nice to have some variety every now and then. So if you've got a story that you'd like us to check out or a story that you would like to share with us, reach out to us, let us know. I know we've got an investigation scheduled for a little bit later on, the beginning of next month. So hopefully that's something that we get to do. That's still a little ways out, but I hope that's something we get to do. We are going to start trying to do hopefully one of these a month. Get on some kind of a regular schedule so that you're not just sitting out there going, I hope they do one of these soon. So we'll try to get on that regular schedule. Check us out on Facebook. Give us a like there. If you've got questions or if you've got a story you want us to tell, reach out. Let us know on Facebook, on here on YouTube, or you can email us strangeappalachia@gmail.com. But thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed.
All right, y'all take it easy.